The storm hit hard, rain lashing against the streets, turning the neighborhood into a blur of gray and splashing puddles. I held my daughter's small hand tightly, feeling the chill run through both of us as we hurried toward our home. Lightning flashed, illuminating an old man struggling to open the heavy door of a rundown house. His coat was soaked through, and he seemed on the verge of losing balance as the wind pushed against him. "Let me get you inside," I shouted, my voice cutting through the roar of the storm. I ran to him, gripping his trembling hand and pulling him away from the icy wind. Each step was slippery, and I had to focus on keeping both my daughter and the man steady as we navigated the puddles and debris scattered across the sidewalk. He stumbled once, and I caught him just in time, my heart pounding. Inside the dimly lit hallway, we wrapped him in a thick blanket. I poured a cup of hot tea, its steam curling into the cold air, and handed it to him. He took it with shaking hands, and I noticed a flicker of gratitude mixed with something else, a relief, maybe even wonder. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, words weren't necessary. My daughter's eyes widened as she watched, clutching her own small cup, sensing that this man was different from anyone she had ever met. The room smelled of wet coats and old wood, and outside, the storm continued its relentless pounding. I could feel my daughter leaning closer to me, her curiosity obvious, yet she stayed quiet, sensing the tension in the air. The man's breath came slowly now, steadying, and a small, almost shy smile appeared on his face. He whispered a soft, "Thank you," and it echoed in the tiny room like something precious. In that moment, everything shifted. A simple act of kindness, offering shelter, warmth, and a cup of tea, had created a connection none of us expected. My daughter and I shared a glance, both feeling it. Life could surprise you, even in the most ordinary, stormy evening. And as the rain continued outside, we realized that this encounter was just the beginning of a story that would change our little world forever. Inside the small, dimly lit house, I moved quickly to prepare another cup of tea, trying to keep my hands steady despite the storm's roar outside. Steam rose from the kettle, curling around the edges of the chipped countertop. My daughter sat on the edge of the couch, her legs swinging nervously, eyes flicking between me and the man. I poured the hot tea into a mug and handed it to him, my fingers brushing briefly against his cold, trembling hands. He smiled, timid and hesitant, a quiet warmth in his eyes. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely above the rain's pounding. He glanced at my daughter and said something soft, but the words were awkward, his shyness making the room feel fragile. She leaned slightly forward, curiosity sparkling, reaching her small hand toward him. I froze for a moment, a chill running down my spine. Could I really trust this stranger? The thought made my heart beat faster. He seemed to notice my hesitation, lowering his gaze as if choosing his words carefully. I studied his face, the lines and weariness, sensing that he had something he wanted to share. But he didn't speak. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, and the occasional flash of lightning cast shadows that danced across the walls. Time felt suspended, heavy with uncertainty, as if the storm itself were holding its breath with us. My daughter's hand brushed against his again, gentle, curious, trusting. I swallowed, reminding myself that kindness sometimes meant taking risks. I whispered softly to her, "It's okay, just be gentle," trying to steady both her and my own nerves. He smiled faintly, a hint of relief crossing his face, and for a moment, the room felt warmer despite the storm. If you want to see how this unexpected connection unfolds, how trust and courage can change a life overnight, don't forget to subscribe and join us. We share stories just like this one, filled with moments of hope, family, and the surprising ways kindness can bring people together. Keep watching, because the story is only getting more emotional from here. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the air was heavy and damp, carrying the lingering scent of wet earth and wood. My daughter, sitting cross-legged on the couch with her blanket wrapped around her shoulders, glanced up at the man with wide, curious eyes. She smiled and said, "Do you have any funny stories?" "My mom tells me funny stories all the time." Her small voice was bright, innocent, full of expectation. I watched from the kitchen, my hand lightly resting on her shoulder. My mind raced with questions. Could I really let my daughter get too close? Was it safe to trust someone we barely knew? The man, noticing her interest, hesitated, then offered a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. His shyness only made me more cautious. "Where are you from?" I asked, my voice steady but deliberate. "What do you do?" I wanted to know if this stranger had any connection to the life I trusted to protect my daughter. He paused, then answered vaguely, "I've traveled a lot. I work here and there." The lack of specifics made my chest tighten, a knot of unease forming in my stomach. My daughter, oblivious to my worry, bounced slightly on the couch. "Tell me about when you were a kid. Did you ever fall in the mud or get scared in the rain?" she asked, leaning forward eagerly. The man chuckled quietly, a soft, genuine sound that seemed to ease the tension in the room, though I remained watchful. He began to tell a story about slipping on wet cobblestones in a town far away, his words slow and deliberate, painting a picture of clumsy adventures in his youth. My daughter laughed freely, the sound echoing off the walls, and for a moment, the room felt lighter. But I noticed him glance toward the door, almost as if he were hesitating to fully commit to the story. She jumped up, excited, and tried to follow him as he moved to pick up another blanket from the closet. "Come on. Show me more," she exclaimed, reaching for his hand. I quickly stepped forward, gently holding her arm, stopping her. "Not yet, honey," I said, my voice firm but calm. "We don't know him well enough." He turned, sensing the tension, and gave a small, apologetic smile. He didn't push or argue, but his quiet compliance made me study him even harder. Could I trust someone who had such a gentle manner, yet hid so much behind that timid smile? The internal conflict was sharp and immediate, a tug-of-war between my instincts and the warmth I saw in his interactions with my daughter. My daughter pouted slightly, her hand brushing against mine, trying to communicate her curiosity and desire for trust. I held her close for a moment, whispering, "We have to be careful. He's kind, but we need to know more first." She leaned her head against my shoulder, nodding slowly, but her eyes never left him. That innocent trust contrasted sharply with my caution. The man settled on the couch across from us, pulling his legs close, his eyes soft but unreadable. He tried to continue the story, adding small, amusing details about his childhood, carefully observing how I reacted. I realized he was testing me too, gauging whether I would allow my daughter to let him into our space. Tension and curiosity mixed in a delicate balance, the room thick with unspoken questions. Then, just as he reached the part about almost slipping into a canal during a storm in a distant city, my daughter gasped and pointed to the hallway. "Look. Over there." I turned, heart pounding, following her gaze, and saw a shadow move near the doorway, something subtle, almost fleeting. The man froze for a second, then glanced at me with a small, almost imperceptible smile. My pulse raced. Whatever this shadow meant, it felt like the start of something far bigger than a simple story, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the events of today would push all of us into uncharted territory. The storm outside had grown fiercer, rain hammering against the windows like a relentless drum. The wind howled through the trees, bending their branches violently, and a sudden crack startled all of us as a large branch fell just a few feet from the living room window. My heart jumped, and my daughter shrieked, clutching my leg tightly. The man immediately stood, his chair scraping softly against the wooden floor. He moved with surprising agility, stepping toward the front door and peering through the rain-streaked glass. "Looks like it's holding, but I'll make sure everything's secure," he said, his voice calm but firm. There was a certainty in his movements that made me pause and breathe a little easier. I watched him closely, a mix of relief and lingering anxiety gripping me. Here was someone I barely knew, yet he was taking responsibility, assessing danger, and acting to protect us. Still, my hand instinctively stayed near my daughter's shoulder, a silent reminder to myself that trust could not come too easily. My daughter's curiosity was stronger than her fear. She let go of my hand and ran toward him, her little boots sliding slightly on the wet, soaked rug by the doorway. "I'll help you," she shouted, eager to be part of what she perceived as an adventure. My heart sank. Before I could stop her, her foot caught the edge of the damp rug. She stumbled, arms flailing, and I shouted, rushing forward as fast as I could. My hands gripped her tightly, preventing her from falling headfirst onto the hard wooden floor. Her breath came in quick gasps, eyes wide with shock, but she was safe. The man turned immediately, concern flashing across his face. "Is she okay?" he asked, his voice rising slightly. I nodded, still holding my daughter close, feeling my heart pounding. "Yes, she's fine," I said, trying to steady my voice, but the adrenaline kept it shaky. He came closer to help, checking the rug and moving it aside. "We don't want any accidents," he said quietly, his tone almost apologetic but caring. I noticed the care in his actions, the thoughtfulness that went beyond mere politeness. His concern was genuine, and for a brief moment, I let my guard down. My daughter, reassured now, stepped back and held his hand gently, mimicking the way I had held her. She smiled at him, and he returned a soft, almost shy smile, bending slightly to meet her gaze. It was a fragile connection forming between them, one built on small gestures and cautious trust. I exhaled slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering uncertainty. He was kind, capable, and careful, but could I fully trust someone unknown with my daughter's safety? The storm outside mirrored the storm in my mind, chaotic, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. Just as I was beginning to settle, another loud crack came from outside. A tree branch scraped against the roof, and the lights flickered, casting shifting shadows across the room. My daughter froze mid-step, looking up at him. He turned toward the window, squinting into the darkness, and for a moment, I noticed a change in his expression, alert, tense, almost as if he had just remembered something urgent. I felt my stomach drop. Whatever he had noticed, it was serious, and I realized we might not be safe even inside the house. The storm had eased slightly, leaving a steady drizzle outside that tapped rhythmically against the windows. My daughter had bounced back from the earlier scare, her energy renewed, and now she insisted on making a small snack for the man. "I want to make him something," she said, grabbing a plate and some bread from the counter. Her eyes sparkled with determination, and I could see she genuinely wanted to contribute. I watched closely, my hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Every movement was measured, careful, as if I could shield her from any unseen danger simply by staying alert. The man leaned slightly toward the counter, offering guidance with a gentle tone. "Here, let me show you a trick with the butter," he said softly, his hands moving with surprising patience. I noticed the sincerity in his gestures, the subtle effort to make her feel included and safe. My daughter laughed, spreading the butter unevenly across the bread, and he chuckled along with her, the sound warm and comforting. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to breathe, appreciating the kindness and patience he was showing. Perhaps he wasn't just a stranger after all, perhaps his presence could be a quiet support for us rather than a threat. The sound of a creaking door interrupted the calm. I tensed immediately and turned to see a neighbor peeking inside, her brow furrowed in suspicion. "What's going on here?" she asked sharply, glancing from me to the man. Her gaze lingered, judging, as if she were deciding whether to intervene or call someone. My chest tightened, and I realized how quickly our peaceful moment could unravel. I stepped forward, trying to steady my voice. "It's okay," I said, lifting my hand slightly. "We just had a storm outside, and he needed some shelter. Everything is fine." The man crouched slightly, gathering my daughter into his lap, holding her gently while offering a reassuring smile toward the neighbor. His calm presence made my words easier to deliver, lending credibility to my explanation. The neighbor gave a skeptical look, but after a long moment, she nodded and stepped back. I exhaled slowly, feeling the tension ease but not vanish entirely. Trust was still fragile in the room, balanced delicately between what I knew and what I feared. My mind raced, wondering whether letting him into our lives would remain safe, or if it might lead to unforeseen consequences. I turned back to my daughter, who was happily nibbling on her bread, now chatting softly with the man. He asked questions about school and friends, gently encouraging her to speak, nodding and listening intently. The interaction was natural, flowing, and yet I remained hyper-aware, monitoring every movement, every glance, every subtle gesture. It was clear that he wanted to help, not just as a guest, but as someone who genuinely cared about our comfort and safety. He adjusted the blanket around my daughter, moved a chair closer to make sure she could sit comfortably, and even offered her a sip of water. Every small act of care heightened my internal conflict, the pull to accept his help, the caution that had kept me guarded for so long. My daughter leaned against him, giggling at a small joke he made, and I felt my heart soften slightly. I realized that despite my reservations, she was responding to him with trust, laughter, and curiosity. The warmth in the room, the sense of connection, it all felt fragile, but real. I knew that allowing him to stay close meant opening the door to possibilities, good, uncertain, and perhaps even life-changing. Then, just as I was about to step away to fetch more tea, a sudden knock sounded at the front door, louder than before. My daughter froze, the man stiffened, and I felt my chest tighten. Whoever, or whatever, was outside, it wasn't casual curiosity this time. The man's gaze met mine, sharp and alert, and I realized that the next moments could change everything for us, and there was no turning back now. The knocking at the door had barely faded when I turned back toward the living room, my eyes catching something unusual on the shelf. A photo, slipped behind a stack of old books, peeked out from the edge of the frame. Curious, I bent down and pulled it free, the dampness from the storm causing the corners to curl slightly. I gasped as I saw the faces. There, smiling in the photograph, was the man sitting across from us, arm draped around my late husband's shoulders. My heart skipped a beat. Memories surged unbidden, the rush of loss and nostalgia clashing with a new, unexpected recognition. Could it be the same man who had been sitting quietly in my living room for the past hour? I held the photo closer, inspecting it carefully. The man's face was unmistakable, the same gentle eyes, the same hesitant smile. He hadn't been a stranger at all. He had been part of my husband's life, a friend lost to time, distance, or circumstance. The realization hit me with a mix of disbelief and awe. He had returned, appearing in the most unlikely of ways, at the precise moment we needed him most. Before I could even process the thought fully, my daughter let out a squeal of excitement. She ran toward the man, arms wide, her small legs carrying her across the wet rug. "You're him. You're really him," she exclaimed, leaping into his arms. He caught her effortlessly, holding her close, his expression softening into one of profound tenderness. I stepped back, my chest tightening. Shock and relief wove together in an intense knot of emotion. The man looked down at my daughter, a faint, incredulous smile forming, as if he could hardly believe this reunion was happening. His hands rested lightly on her back, careful and steady, protective in a way that immediately eased my lingering fears. The storm outside had faded into a gentle drizzle, yet inside, the room felt electrified. Time seemed to pause as I watched them interact, the laughter, the recognition, the comfort forming naturally between them. I realized in that moment that his presence was not just safe, it was a gift. Someone we could trust had entered our lives, guided perhaps by fate or coincidence. I felt a lump in my throat, tears threatening, but my mind remained sharp, aware of how delicate the moment was. This wasn't just about friendship, it was about connection, about healing the gaps left by loss, about giving my daughter a sense of security and continuity she had been missing. He gently lowered my daughter back to the floor, kneeling to her level. "I've missed you," he said softly, his voice carrying a weight of sincerity that made my eyes water. She threw her arms around his neck again, her small voice whispering, "I knew I could trust you." The warmth in the room was tangible, almost suffocating in its intensity, but beautiful and necessary. I swallowed hard, stepping closer, still unsure how to process the flood of emotions. Gratitude, relief, and a lingering disbelief warred inside me. His past connection to my husband made everything click into place, the care he had shown, his gentle patience, his quiet attentiveness, all of it had roots deeper than chance. I realized my protective instincts could relax slightly, the danger I had imagined was never there. Then, as I was about to speak, he glanced toward the hallway with a subtle tension in his expression. Something had caught his attention, a flicker of alertness that I hadn't noticed before. My stomach dropped. Whatever he had just seen or remembered, it seemed important, urgent, and perhaps even dangerous. I felt a chill crawl down my spine, realizing that even though we had uncovered his true identity, the storm, inside and outside, was far from over. The next morning, the storm had cleared completely, leaving behind a fresh, earthy scent in the air. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, reflecting off the wet tiles. The man moved quietly around the small house, picking up stray shoes and sweeping away puddles left from our drenched boots. His movements were deliberate, careful, and thoughtful, showing a respect for the space that felt almost reverential. I watched from the doorway, sipping my coffee, feeling a subtle shift inside me. He wasn't just a visitor or a temporary presence, he seemed to be claiming small corners of our home not for himself, but for us, for my daughter, for the memory of the man I had lost. It was a quiet dedication that words alone could not capture. Later, he went outside to fix the old gate that had been sticking for weeks. My daughter followed him, carrying a small toolbox she insisted on helping with. He guided her hands patiently as she handed him screws and tools, smiling softly at her efforts. I felt a pang of warmth seeing them work together, his care gentle but firm, teaching her responsibility while showing her kindness. Inside, I began organizing some shelves that had been cluttered for months. He moved over to help, rearranging books and putting old photographs in order. He even found one of my husband with a group of friends I hadn't seen in years, and gently set it upright on the shelf. Every gesture, no matter how small, conveyed that he remembered, that he honored the life my daughter's father had lived, and that he wanted to be part of our present. As evening fell, he offered to read a story to my daughter before bed. She curled up on the couch, her blanket snug around her shoulders, while he sat beside her with the book open. His voice was soft but animated, capturing her attention completely. I leaned against the doorframe, a lump forming in my throat, feeling a deep, unspoken gratitude. The bond forming between them was unmistakable, warm and real. I realized then how much I had underestimated him. The fear I had carried, the caution that had made me hesitant, now seemed almost unnecessary. Trust, I understood, could be built carefully, slowly, through action and consistency rather than promises. And he was proving every day that he could be trusted, not by saying it, but by showing it. My daughter giggled at a funny line in the story, and he laughed along with her, the sound blending with the quiet ticking of the clock. I stepped closer, feeling my heart ease as I saw my daughter safe, happy, and genuinely connected with someone who had once been a stranger. I allowed myself a small smile, acknowledging that this connection could help heal wounds I hadn't realized were still tender. Later, I helped tuck her into bed. The man lingered nearby, quietly straightening her blanket and making sure everything was in place. She reached out and hugged him tightly, her little arms squeezing around his waist. "Thank you for being here," she whispered, her voice full of trust and love. He hugged her back, careful not to squeeze too tightly, but with warmth and sincerity. I stepped back into the hallway, watching them, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. This was more than help with chores or casual company, this was connection, care, and the rebuilding of trust that had been fragile since my husband's passing. Every small gesture reinforced that he wasn't just present, he was here to stay in the ways that mattered most, emotionally and practically. Just as I turned away, I noticed him glance out the window toward the empty street. His expression shifted subtly, alert yet thoughtful, as if he were remembering something urgent from his past or noticing someone approaching. I felt a chill run down my spine, realizing that even with trust built and warmth established, the next chapter of our story might bring challenges none of us had yet anticipated.
The man moved into the small house next door a few days later, carrying only a few boxes, but bringing with him a presence that felt enormous. Every morning, he would wave from the porch, ready to help my daughter with small tasks, or offer a smile when I needed reassurance. It was as if his arrival had quietly stitched a safety net around our little family, one made of trust, care, and subtle acts of kindness. He began joining us in daily routines, not intruding, but participating. Some mornings, he brewed coffee while I packed lunches, chatting lightly with my daughter as she recited the alphabet or shared her newest school discoveries. Other days, he would accompany her to school, holding her hand against the chilly wind, his eyes attentive to every step she took. Each gesture was small, yet each one reinforced the feeling that we were not alone, that our lives had room for another protector and companion. Evenings were the moments I cherished most. He would read stories, help with homework, or simply listen as my daughter recounted her day, her laughter echoing through the house. I noticed how her confidence grew, how her smiles became easier, freer. The tension that had once haunted our home melted slowly, replaced with a warmth that neither I nor my daughter had expected to find after so much loss. Watching them together, I felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. My daughter was happy, secure, and thriving. I realized that kindness, patience, and trust had the power to create bonds stronger than fear or suspicion. We didn't need romance to define a family. We needed presence, reliability, and genuine care, and he was providing all of that, quietly and consistently. That evening, as the sun dipped low and bathed the kitchen in golden light, the three of us stood by the window, gazing at the horizon. My daughter leaned against the man, my hand resting gently on her shoulder. We smiled, an improbable trio bound not by blood, but by care, trust, and shared moments of warmth. For the first time in years, I felt a quiet certainty. Love and connection could come in unexpected forms, and sometimes, that was more than enough.